I'm just letting you know that the next 2 hours are going to be two of the greatest hours of my life. I just love you already. Okay, great. Okay, yes, so women and vibrators.
Our parents bring us up to have good manners, a work ethic, sense of responsibility,
Yes.
accountability. Nobody ever brings us up to... So I'm going to give you the Cindy Gallop patented 3-step filter guide to successful online dating.
Okay, wait, is everybody comfortable? Can I just give you, do you just need a couple of minutes? Go get a piece of paper and a pen.
There are an awful lot of people out there having very bad sex. I've had great sex that is a transcendental experience, and I want everybody to have that experience. What I recommend is...
You're sort of blowing my mind every 5 minutes here, so I'm just going to have to unpick that a little bit. I am really, really excited today because I'm going to be talking to Cindy Gallop. She is an absolute boss when it comes to everything in her career. I mean, she worked for a huge advertising agency. She became head of that advertising agency. She then has become an expert in kind of sexual health, and she started up a company called Make Love Not Porn, which does what it says on the tin, but it's about making healthy sexual content with real life partners, but with all ethnicities, content for different religions, content for different sexual preferences. Everything is covered, but done in a respectful and beautiful way. She is so interesting, and I cannot wait to get underneath her skin. I'm so excited. I think I'm going to start, Cindy, by saying that this morning I really did try and sort of think about what I was going to wear today. And I thought, Cindy's going to get the slightly saucy dress that I love. I love a pussy bow. I love a puffy sleeve.
You're looking amazing.
Bit
Absolutely
of
fabulous.
leg.
Yep.
I thought,
fantastic.
do I get my legs out? But they're not brown enough right now. So I thought I've got to cover them up at the time. This is a bit annoying. But you nearly got latex. I thought, shall I crack?
I would have loved latex. I would have adored latex.
But you're
Damn.
not in latex, so I'm quite pleased I didn't wear it, because I would have turned up thinking, oh my God. How are you?
I'm great. All the better for being here.
Yeah, I mean, when you got out of the car and I saw you, I really admire you, and I love what you do, and I love what you stand for, and I'm so pleased that we are having this chat today. So thank you.
I'm very touched and moved to hear that, Davina, so equally thank you. I really appreciate it.
I'd quite like to start off talking about your childhood, because what I'm fascinated in is how do you become or grow up to be a sexually liberated woman? So you were born into what feels to me like quite a sort of straight-laced professional family. What were your parents like?
Sure. So my father was English. He died a few years ago. Very old-fashioned. You know, my mother is Malaysian Chinese. She's still with us at the age of 92 in a lovely care home in Battersea. But essentially, equally old-fashioned. And I was born here in the UK, but when I was 6, we moved to Brunei in Borneo, where my father had got a job. And so I grew up in Asia, which is, you know, again, very conventional, very traditional, absolutely no talk about sex whatsoever. There was zero education about sex for me and my sisters from either of our parents. You know, the extent of my mother's addressing of that topic was to say at regular intervals, girls, you stay virgin till you marry. And that was it, okay? That was the full extent. So I feel very lucky because I absolutely internalized that repression. You know, I went to university, I went to Oxford, which was the first time I really encountered boys. I did an awful lot of everything but, as one did back in those days.
Yes.
You know, and so when I finally began having sex, I went, oh my God, this is amazing.
So
this is wonderful.
How old would you have been when that happened?
I think I was 21. So relatively late in the day, again, compared to a lot of people. But it was because, I mean, I was absolutely being sexually active, but not like crossing that final frontier.
Yeah. I mean, what's interesting about that is that I wonder if this real revelation of how fantastic it was because you left it to an age where you were old enough to really understand the joy of sex. Why do you think it was that?
It absolutely was. I think partly, I only engaged sexually with young men that I was enormously attracted to, thought myself in love with, was infatuated by, etc., etc. So there was always an emotional component to that. I did not feel, oh my God, I have to unburden myself of my virginity as quickly as possible, which unfortunately absolutely can be a societal pressure, And so first of all, it was very much always in an emotional context. And then secondly, because obviously, I grew up in the era before internet porn, it was mutual exploration and discovery. There was no, yes, of course, one had all, found, one's neighbour's dad's Playboy magazine and wherever. The classic stuff. But there was no, oh, I know how you have sex and it's a formula and you've got to break out these moves. It's got to happen like this. And so I remember all of that exploration very, very fondly. Compared to, in my later years, and especially, dating younger men as I have been more recently, seeing the impact of what happens when you grow up watching porn before you ever have your first sexual experience. So I feel, as I say, very lucky that I came through a pretty repressed, sort of upbringing, out the other end, extremely well-balanced, healthily enjoying sex, and have wanted to encourage people to do the same thing ever since.
What's interesting as a positive, or as an advocate for positive sex, what I heard you say just then was positive sex, isn't necessarily about encouraging everybody to start super young.
Oh my gosh,
it's actually possibly the other way around. What are your...
Except, the important thing there is, it's not about encouraging everyone to start young, but it is absolutely about educating as early as possible about sex, and importantly in the context of pleasure and relationships, and how you decide what you do and don't enjoy. And that's what we're missing. And by the way, I'm sure you've read, there are all these surveys that go, so young people are having a lot less sex. And by the way, I encourage everyone to take all of those surveys with a grain of salt.
Yes.
We are talking about the single area of universal human experience where what people actually say is very different from what people actually do. Okay? So in any survey or research study done into sex. But what I do think is true, just based on my own observation, is that, Gen Z is much more open about all things sexual than previous generations. And what that does mean is being more open to, thinking about discussing it and going, actually, I would like to make sure that my first experience is a good one. And so waiting longer, the wheel has come full circle, as it were. And so I don't think it's they're having less sex. I think they are thinking more deeply about sex and what they want than, previous generations have necessarily done when popular culture was urging them to operate in particular ways.
So when you were a young woman growing up and you'd had your first experience and it was actually way better than you thought, what did that lead you to think about? Because were you thinking, when I was a young girl, and I think I've read somewhere that you feel the same way, I was just being sort of funneled towards good, learn things, be a good wife, learn how to cook, be a mum. But also, my granny worked and I found her very inspiring, so I always wanted to work, but we were funneled in a direction. Where did you feel like you were going once you'd had sex at 21?
Well, absolutely, as you say, from the moment we're born, we are encouraged to believe that our entire life is a search for the one. Everything we do is... and the appalling thing about that is that, what that means is that in your teens and your 20s, every single social event you go to, will he be there? And by the way, I'm a straight woman, so I'm speaking, heteronormatively there.
Sure.
But so what that means is you spend hours on makeup and outfit changes. Okay, what a waste of time, incidentally.
Yeah.
Then you go to this social event, and the will he be there, search for the one, forces you to compete with other women as a result, for the hot guys or whatever, which is a dynamic that I deplore.
Yes.
And then at the end of the night, you schlep home, despondently going, oh, he wasn't there tonight, maybe next time. And honestly, I mean, because again, I grew up in Asia, had a Chinese mother. It was absolutely all about one day you will get married and have children. And, it was at some point in my 30s that I just went, sod this for a game of soldiers, I'm not looking for the one anymore. And oh my God, the relief. Because basically what happens then is that you go to social events, you enjoy yourself.
Yes.
They're not fraught with all of this, I've got to be on the eternal lookout for my soulmate, the right part, et cetera, et cetera. Just, liberation.
I have two girls, and obviously I know all of their friends. And I also have, for some reason, a group of friends who are in their kind of mid to late 30s. This search is real. Like it is, I've got people freezing eggs. They can't find the one. But I'm also thinking it's sort of trying to find the one sort of just stops you just having fun, flings.
No.
And even a fling could be the one. You've stopped being so blinkered.
Absolutely. There are many more types of relationships than people think, because I'm very open about the fact that I date younger men casually and recreationally, But interestingly, so one fundamental criteria, no matter how casual the relationship, they have to be a very nice person. I have great radar for very nice people. As a result, I only date utterly lovely younger men in an atmosphere of mutual trust, respect, affection, liking. And so rather ironically, my so-called casual relationships go on a lot longer than most people's so-called committed ones. Because I will date younger men, off and on, sporadically, for periods of 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 years. During that time, they may go on to date women their own age. They may form relationships. They may get married. But we like each other. We stay friends. I'm friends with most of them on Facebook. We're all connected on LinkedIn. And every so often, by the way, sometimes the relationships end. Every so often a marriage ends. And they come back, and it's very nice. But that is not a relationship in the way the world sees the term with a capital R, but it is a lovely, lovely ongoing relationship, and I'm very fond of them, in a non-romantic way, and they are very fond of me in a non-romantic way.
Hi, it's me. I just wanted to ask you a little favour. Can you possibly just hit the subscribe button down below? Normally subscribing means it costs something, but actually when you hit subscribe here, it is completely free, but basically it just really helps us to continue to bring you lots more episodes of Begin Again. Thanks so much. I think it's interesting when I split up from my husband, I was approached by a few people online, all of them under 30. And I was 50.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is the attraction of an older woman to a younger man? Why is that?
So I always ask this question of the men I date because I'm very curious. I tend to meet them predominantly on cougar dating sites.
Stop it, wait. Wait, put the car in park, Cindy. Give me 2 dating sites that are cougar dating sites.
Well, actually, what I recommend,
what are they called?
Davina,
Yes.
I recommend to every woman, especially the ones listening, go to Google and search cougar dating sites, because a very long list will unfold, and cougar dating sites are like partners and vibrators. You have to find the one that's right for you. So I would not,
God, Cindy, I don't think I could love you more. I'm I'm just letting you know that the next 2 hours of my life are going to be two of the greatest hours of my life. I just love you already. We've only been, I don't know how even long we've been talking, but I love you already. Okay, great. Okay, yes. So women and vibrators, you've got to find the right match. You're so right.
Yeah, exactly. And so the same thing, by the way, with dating sites generally, as well as cougar date sites. There are so many. Find the one that you like the look of, you like the vibe, etc.
Why is it, though, do you think that younger men
I was going to
find...
answer
No,
the
it's
question,
fine. But I'm just interested. So, what is it about older women that young men like?
So I always ask this question. And what I hear most often is, first of all, and by the way, I really sympathise with this because I remember myself in my 20s. They go, girls my own age are so insecure. And absolutely, in my 20s, I was insecure as hell, like all the rest of us. You know.
Too, yeah.
And the trouble with when you're insecure about yourself, without meaning to, you make it all about you. You know, you need to be constantly reassured. You know, you are always asking for validation. And so what I hear is, these young men love older women because at this age, who gives a fuck?
Yes.
I mean, they like our confidence. The fact that we don't give a damn what anybody thinks. I mean, I'm 65. I happen to think I look great naked.
Can I just say, I mean, you look great dressed.
Right,
and I have seen you in not that many clothes, and you look great. So, yes.
Thank you. So I couldn't care less what anybody thinks about my body. I think I'm fabulous. And they find that enormously appealing. Also, when you're confident about yourself, that enables you to kind of flip the lens and be enormously reassuring to them. So I make a point of telling the younger men I date how beautiful they are. And I use that term deliberately because we tend not to use it of men. And men are beautiful, in the same way that we are, in all sorts of ways, including, because porn, unfortunately, educates men to think that sex is entirely dick-centric. It's all about how big it is, how hard it is, how long you keep it up. And actually, all the other parts of a man's body are wonderful, and I'm a complete sucker for a great male forearm. Give me a, gently muscled, finely furred with hair, male forearm. So I will praise their forearms. I will go, you have beautiful forearms, you have a beautiful back, and quite often they have never been told they're beautiful and never been appreciated in that way by women of their own age. And it's really lovely seeing them kind of blossom under that sort of attention.
That's slightly blown my mind, actually. There's two things, I think, that I thought about while you were speaking. One was how attractive confidence is and how elusive confidence is in your 20s and sometimes even into your 30s. And wouldn't it be amazing if there was some magic trick that you could teach women to love themselves more? And I don't know how to do that. How can women be more confident when they're younger?
Yep. Do you know, Davina, this is absolutely what I am trying to make happen all the time. Because, people say to me, Cindy, how do you get to be this confident? And I go 65 years of life. But obviously I want to shortcut that process for everybody else. And so, what I recommend to women is take a long, hard look inside yourself. And that's in two contexts. The first is, and this is what I recommend to everybody, men included, take a long, hard look inside yourself and identify what you believe in, what you value, what you stand for, what you're all about. What are your truths?
Can I quickly ask you something?
Yeah.
What kind of answers would you... What do you mean by what do you stand for? In what way? What do you...
Right. So what I'm talking about is identifying your core values. And,
okay, so in life, not just around sex.
No.
Okay.
In life, yeah. But I'll come on to how that applies to sex. Because when you do that, first of all, that makes life so much easier. Life still throws you all the shit it always will, but you know exactly how to respond to that shit in any given situation in a way that is true to you.
Yes.
And that really is the secret of happiness. Living your life, working your work in a way that is always true to your values. And when you do that, when you know you're being true to yourself, you do not care what anybody else thinks. That gives you confidence because you know you're always being true to you.
Cindy, hold my hands again. Wait. I've just had a feeling. my God, I feel like I'm going to cry. Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
It's amazing. I'll tell you why. I think what you're describing is somebody genuinely being themselves.
Absolutely.
And that how there's something... My partner became Michael last year. I think I saw it happen. We were at a party.
Yeah.
And something happened and I looked at him and I was like, oh, wow, like, look how happy. Like, he was kind of throwing some shapes, he was doing this thing and I was like, oh my God, he's so free.
Yep.
And I had a lot going on last year. And
I know. I'm so glad you came through that.
Thanks. Thank you. And I spoke to him this year, New Year's Eve, and he's like, right, this year, it's going to be a great year. And I said, this year, last year I watched You Become You. And I said, this year, I'd love to really become, because part of me's always been a people pleaser.
Right.
Which is slightly doing things that other people want me to do or expect me to do.
Yeah. Get over that.
Yes. But do you know what I mean?
Fuck that shit.
Yes. And from that, not letting go. Yeah. And I've had a couple of revelations already in January that have been absolutely amazing. And what you're describing there, setting out your values, what it did was it made me feel the possibility of really, that's what it spoke to me about. That's what I felt you were telling me.
Good.
Wow.
Good.
Okay, I'm okay. I've swallowed it.
Good.
I haven't cried. Let's crack on.
Good.
Okay.
Because there's a second very important part to this. So I designed my business, Make Love Not Porn, around all my personal beliefs and philosophies, one of which is, as I've just said, that everything in life starts with you and your values. So I regularly ask people this question: what are your sexual values? And nobody can ever answer me because we're not taught to think like that.
Yeah.
Our parents bring us up to have good manners, a work ethic, sense of responsibility, accountability. Nobody ever brings us up to behave well in bed. But they should, because in bed, values like empathy, sensitivity, generosity, kindness, honesty, trust, respect are as important as those values are in every other area of our lives where we're actually taught to exercise them. And so, this is a concept of good sexual values that we're pioneering at Make Love Not Porn, because, as I say, it is bizarrely alien to the world and to popular culture. But it's simply about being yourself across every area of your life and your experience, including your sex life. And there are, to your point about people-pleasing, Davina, and that absolutely goes on in bed, there are an awful lot of people out there having very bad sex, not having the sex they want to have, because they have not looked within themselves, identified what they value in a sexual context, and set out to have that part of their lives be as true to themselves as ideally every other part should be.
I think what's interesting when you think about that is that there are so many different aspects to sex that for some people would be 100% acceptable. So, I guess you could go from somebody who loves just totally vanilla sex, missionary position, doesn't really want to go far from that, that's where they feel happiest, to somebody who's loves all the different positions, to somebody who is into BDSM. If you're into something from at that end of the range, the BDSM, it's going to be quite hard to find a partner. You can't. How do you lay that out at a date or something?
So that's the really interesting point, Davina, because actually it's not hard to find a partner, because you can absolutely go to websites like FetLife or Field, to give just a couple of examples. Which are specifically for people who want to explore, kink, BDSM, threesomes, etc. But I think the much more interesting thing to reflect on is precisely the question you've just asked, which is, for example, on a first date, we are really happy going, oh yeah, I like Thai food, or I love vacationing in France, okay. But we are not comfortable going, oh yeah, and in bed, I really like this. Or it's really important to me, that whoever I have sex with is this. And I mean, this is, something that I and many other people, equally with sex positive ventures and causes, are all trying to make happen, which is make it as easy to talk openly and honestly about ourselves sexually as we do, again, with any other aspect of what we are into or what we're not into. And equally, by the way, you've discovered you like Thai food because you actually were brave enough to go to the local Thai and try it. Then you might have gone, wow, I love this, I'm going to go on vacation to Bangkok. And, so you explored. But again, a lot of people do not do that sexually and don't feel able to do that, because this is absolutely the universal area of human experience we're all most engaged with, most fascinated by, and most fucked up about. And that means that you may never find out what you really, really enjoy because you're going, oh, it's kinky, or, oh my God, I can't possibly do that. And again, everyone should feel free to explore or not as they wish.
I mean, you're sort of blowing my mind every 5 minutes here, so I'm just going to have to unpick that a little bit. So what I think is interesting around that is it just means that it feels like an overwhelmingly huge task, because I was just imagining a date with somebody and you are brave and you go, I know this might be a bit strange to you, but do you mind if I just talk about sex, because I'd quite like to get this out in the open before we go on to a second date or anything happens. I'm into this. And, if you say that and they go, but you really like that person, what do you do?
Honestly, if they're the right person, they will respond very positively.
Okay.
And I say that for a couple of reasons. The first is, at Make Love Not Porn, we are spearheading what we call the social sex revolution.
What does that mean?
The revolutionary part is not the sex.
Right.
It's the fact we're out to make it social.
Right.
Bring it out of the shadows into the sunlight, normalize, destigmatize it. So first of all, I have to tell you that, in the 16 years I've worked on Make Love Not Porn, when people meet me, and I exemplify what we're about, which is, it's not just what we are, which is a real-world sex platform, it's the way that we are presenting it, which is this is completely natural and normal. Honestly, the floodgates open. Complete strangers, the moment they find out what I do, go, because everybody is dying to talk about sex. Okay, and so honestly, I think, bringing that topic up on a first date, the right kind of person will be thrilled that you did that, will welcome the fact that you are normalizing having this conversation. And secondly, honestly, it's going to save you both a lot of time because, to give you an example from my own experience, many years ago, I dated a young gentleman who was living in DC at the time, and so we engaged on, email and phone. I mean, by the way, I put the dates I meet on Cougar dating sites, I put through a very rigorous filtering process before I ever, arrange to meet with them in real life, which is why I've never had a bad first date.
Can you just quickly just tell me what is the filtering process?
Sure. So I'm going to give you the Cindy Gallop patented 3-step filter guide to successful online dating.
Okay, wait, is everybody comfortable? Can I just do you just need a couple of minutes? Go get a piece of paper and a pen.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've been operating this myself for 23 years, and I've advised many, many friends to do this, and trust me, it is a fail-safe if you do exactly what I say. So filter number 1 is the photographic filter. So this is where you're on a dating app, you've either been approached by somebody or you're looking at their profile, planning to approach them. But, there's one photograph on their profile. It could be that really good one they had taken like 12 years ago, been using ever since. So what you do is, whether they've reached out to you or you reached out to them, you go, this, profile looks amazing, or thanks so much for, your message. I'd love to see, at least 3 up-to-date photographs of you, one of which must be full length. Now, it's perfectly okay to say that because everybody knows why you're saying that.
Yes.
This is online dating etiquette.
Of course,
okay?
yeah.
Everyone knows why you do that.
Yep.
If they jib at that in any way at all, if they quibble, if any excuse off the list, okay? No exceptions, okay? Because this is where you find out whether or not they look like what they say they do and you like the look of them. And I can't tell the number of friends who have ignored this first filter and lived to regret it bitterly. Okay? So number 1, absolutely photographic. You just have to know that they are what they're saying they are, and that you like the look of them. So when they pass that filter, you go on to the next filter, which is, do you have chemistry in writing? Okay, and so this is messaging, but preferably, by the way, on email versus text. And I say that because this is where you get a sense of how they express themselves in writing, which is much more easily evaluated on email than it is with 3-word texts or etc. This is the filter where, if you're a straight woman, I encourage you to cut the guys some slack. Because men have no idea how to approach women online as much as they have no idea how to approach women offline. And they are normally expected to be the ones to do the approaching. So it's a lot of pressure on them. And so they may be a bit crass. I mean, absolutely, by the way, decide what level of crassness you will or won't be forgiving about. In my case, misspellings and illiteracy, that's off the list immediately. That's just me, But this is where you just message back and forth enough to see whether you like the way they are expressing themselves in writing. Then you move to the third filter.
Can I quickly ask you one thing about that?
Yeah.
So, Cindy, in order to like somebody in writing, what kind of thing are you looking for them to deliver?
I'm just looking for niceness, politeness, by the way, respect, okay? We are not talking about the introduction with dick pic. I mean, that's off the list instantly, okay? Just a way of engaging in writing that is respectful and pleasant and charming. And if it's got a sense of humour, so much the better.
Yes, because I think I'd be looking for humour almost
Yeah.
above banter.
Yep.
I love a bit of banter.
Fantastic, yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, carry on.
Right. So filter number 3, and this is going to sound very old-fashioned. And by the way, I get some young men who go, I'm not doing that. I go, okay, fine, bye, off this. Filter number 3 is the phone call. So this is where, as a straight woman, you take their number, you do not give them yours, you block caller ID, and you have a conversation on the phone. Because first of all, you can get a very good sense of someone from the sound of their voice. Okay. Secondly, if they cannot sustain a conversation over the phone, they sure as hell can't over a drink or a Starbucks.
Yeah.
And it's only and by the way, also, if you're on the phone with them and it's not going well, then you just say, listen, it's been great talking to you. I don't feel right for each other. Goodbye. Put the phone down. And that's it. Done.
And they can't call you back.
No,
exactly. Great.
But if you have a great phone conversation, then that is when I go, terrific, let's meet IRL. And I have to tell you that going through these 3 steps means that I've never had, as I say, a bad first date.
Wow.
Which none of us has any time for, by the way.
Yes.
I mean, I've absolutely met up and there has not been chemistry, we haven't progressed. But it's always been a perfectly pleasant encounter as opposed to an awkward, embarrassing and unpleasant one.
Can I ask you something else? If it's a pleasant encounter, how is that not chemistry?
It can be perfectly pleasant and polite and friendly, but you're not feeling it.
You don't get the fire in
you're
your
not
pants.
feeling it.
You're not like...
and it doesn't even need to be fire. I mean, fire in the pants is fantastic.
Yeah.
But if it's not even like a few embers smouldering.
Oh, I see, okay. You don't even need the fire.
There. Yeah.
There's nothing.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Okay, you're in the friend zone.
Yeah, you're in the friend zone.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would you say are the biggest pitfalls? So we know what you've got to do. You've got to kind of get through the filter and everything. But what are the biggest no-nos that men or women can do, something that they can avoid if they're going to go on a date with somebody after a dating site?
So the way I would respond to that is I really recommend that people think about, if you're looking for your soulmate, you think about adopting the approach that I take to looking for my casual relationships. Because I think, first and foremost, the biggest mistake men and women make usually is when they go on that first date, they have a dating checklist. And must be a nice person is not number 1 on it.
Yeah, it's mad that, isn't it?
Yeah. All too often it is, for the men especially, got to be good looking.
Yeah.
For the women, it may be, got to have a good job, ambition, drive, going places. And honestly, I just recommend absolutely start, ground zero is, are they a nice person? Because that takes them a very long way, And then the second thing that I recommend is, so I'm very straightforward about the fact that, but by the time they've gotten through my filters, I know I like them.
Yes.
and I've got a sense that they're a nice person. And you can only tell whether you're attracted to somebody when you meet IRL. You absolutely cannot. Oh, sorry, in real life.
Oh, in real life.
As the kids say.
I was thinking, how many times is she going to say it before I have to ask her? No, I give up, I've got to ask her now. Yeah. Okay, IRL.
I mean, it's only when you meet in person that you really get a sense of whether, you click with somebody. So often, you're going on that first date where you're looking for your soulmate or committed relationship. And what you will say to yourself and your friends all excited for you is, looks-wise, the only thing that matters is that they're attractive to me. Not true. Anybody looking for a soulmate or committed relationship is all too often walking into that bar, that coffee shop, and when they first set eyes on that other person, they are not thinking, oh, they're attracted to me. They are thinking, what would my friends think if I walked into a party with this on my arm? They are looking for socially endorsed attractiveness.
Yes.
And I'm not.
No.
Because if I really like them, I'm taking them home,
Yes.
and no one else is going to get to meet them or see them. And so I genuinely do not care whether they have these socially endorsed, strong jawline and classical good looks, whatever. I genuinely am going, I already know that, this person is a nice person, they seem interesting. Now, really, I'm asking, do I find them attractive? And if I do, whoopee. And so I would love more people to strip out of their heads,
a type.
What they think their partner should look like, and really go, am I drawn to this person?
And I think types are really interesting because people get stuck in a hair colour.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, or height.
Height is a massive one, isn't it? And shoes. I mean, I always think it's so funny when somebody goes, I didn't like their shoes, and you think,
oh my God.
How can you not like their shoes?
Yeah.
But I think I would have done that in my 20s or 30s.
Yep.
I was so kind of, I don't know, fussy or judgmental. But now I realise it's a lot more about confidence. It's just what you said, that kind of spark, that appeal of somebody who looks like or acts like they really know what they're doing, what they want, where they're going.
And feel very comfortable in their own skin, are happy with who they are, are themselves.
I've got a little challenge for you. Think of one creative project you've always wanted to start. Okay, now let me tell you how you can bring that idea to life with our sponsor, Adobe Express. So it's a really quick and easy create anything app by Adobe. So this tool's designed to give you the confidence to turn those dreams, your dreams, into reality. I've even tried it myself. We've used it to brand this show, so I can actually genuinely say that it makes creating gorgeous graphics and social posts and professional presentations just so straightforward. With smart templates, I can get things done like in a few clicks, and there's an AI feature which is like having a little creative genie with you. So whatever you're dreaming about, honestly, it's never too late to begin. So I dare you, sign up for Adobe Express for free and take that first step. The most transformative chapter of your life is waiting for you. I mean, heightism, I think, is an interesting one. My partner's smaller than me, and to me, he's a giant. But I guess when you know them, they become who they are. And I guess on first meeting, if you've never been with somebody smaller than you, then that might be a block of some sort. But I think it's a silly block to have. How can people get over that kind of block?
No, I completely concur. I mean, I'm very bad at assessing height. Okay, I can never tell how tall anybody is, by the way. And maybe because I'm 5'3" and very small myself. But, I mean, I've dated men who are shorter than me, with whom I had extremely hot sex, So, there is this bizarre patriarchal thing in society that, I mean, again, we're talking, straight relationships here, but, that says the man should be taller than the woman. Why? Who the hell says? Absolutely not. And so if anybody is kind of setting a height in their head as criteria for their soulmate, get rid of that. I mean, it's completely irrelevant, and you will rule out so many wonderful people if you insist on making that a deal breaker.
So let's say people are meeting. What's your opinion on marriage? like that piece of paper. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's absolutely not for me, obviously. I've never, ever wanted married. And
can I ask you why? What is it that about marriage that...
Oh, my God. Where do I start?
Yeah.
I am not a relationship person. I adore being single. I am that very rare person who has absolutely no desire whatsoever to be in love. And that may sound very alien to you and our listeners.
Yeah.
But I think there are many more people like me, or people who would realize they were like me if they really stopped to think about it. And so I would encourage everybody, again, to look into yourselves and ask yourself, what would really make me happy? And when you do that, strip out of your head everything your parents want for you, everything your friends are currently doing simultaneously around you, like all getting engaged and married at the same time, or all having kids or whatever. Strip out what popular culture keeps telling you you should be aspiring to, going after, should be the be-all and the end-all. Take all of that out of consideration and ask yourself what would really make me happy. Because you may find it is absolutely not to get married. It is not to have children. You know, it is not to necessarily find your soulmate. You know, and so I mean, the thing is, there are obviously people for whom marriage works brilliantly, including my parents, who are married very happily for 60 years. You know, so I had that in front of me, you know, all through my childhood and growing up. But there are far more people who should not have married each other. And honestly, you know, absolutely fine, obviously, to get divorced and, you know, go on with life. But if they'd stopped to think about it in the first place, they might have gone, I'm not sure this is what I really want to do. And by the way, even based just on a very unscientific test of people I've known in my lifetime, a surprising amount of people walk down the aisle knowing they shouldn't, have absolutely had reservations, but the invitations have gone out, their parents have spent the money, you know, the whole thing's set up, it's all booked, it's, you know, and so they've gone ahead regardless. And then, you know, things have not worked out.
I mean, it's a fascinating thing, really, when you start to examine it a bit closer, that society is getting all of it wrong in terms of intimacy and relationships. How often do you find that people get into marriages and the sex changes? You know, just sort of people go a bit like, oh, is that it?
And before I answer that, Davina, I just want to make one other point about marriage, which is, I think it's important to acknowledge that, interestingly, the marriages that do really work out, and absolutely should happen, are the ones that people were originally never able to have. And I say that because I have many gay friends, and obviously that is a privilege that was not afforded to them for so many years. And so, you know, I have around me a lot of examples of fantastic gay marriages. And I think that when that was not something that was as easily accessible and available as it was for, you know, heterosexuals, then actually more thought and more commitment, you know, and more, you know, authenticity goes into it. So I just want to make that point.
On top of that, I'd just like to say that, do you think that men, and this is a bit of a sweeping generalization, and I don't really like making generalizations around sex, but maybe because of their testosterone levels or whatever, men are more likely to want to just carry on having sex all the way through a long-term marriage, whereas women, you know, you might have children, be very tired, you go off it a little bit, then you try and come back to it, but then it's hard because you haven't really had it for so long. Then you get perimenopausal, and then you go off it a bit, and then you get menopausal. Is how important is sex? Because I did say something once, and I got into some quite hot water, that I think sex is important in a marriage, but that's just, you said earlier, you caveated something quite brilliantly, and I think I just want to say there, in my opinion, it is, but I'm sure lots of other people can have a very happy relationship if both of them aren't interested, I guess.
If both of them are interested, potentially, but I have to say, I think it's enormously important. I think it's enormously important in any relationship, as well as marriage. And I think it's important because, first of all, again, talking in a heterosexual context, sex is, unfortunately, how a lot of men communicate, because they have not been able to communicate in any other way, because our society, makes men feel it is not masculine to talk about emotions, to make yourself vulnerable. And so I think quite often, and I'm basing this on, I've 16 years of people writing to make love, not porn, and many, married couples and couples in long-standing relationships in the kind of scenario you talk about, where quite often sex is the only way that a man feels he can communicate love, feelings, emotion, make a connection, be intimate. And in that scenario, equally, women are going through all sorts of things that militate against that, completely understandably. And so, this is something Make Love Not Porn plays a very helpful role in, because as social sex, we are absolutely for couples to watch together, and so we hear a lot that, again, because of the way we normalize things, what will happen is one half of the couple will say to the other, oh, I came across this thing called Make Love Not Porn, let's check it out. And, we hear, one couple wrote and said, watching videos on your platform, it feels as natural and normal to talk about what we see in them as we discuss the movie we just watched on Netflix or a series on the BBC.
Brilliant.
And from there, it then normalizes, it makes it really easy to take it one step further, which is talking about our own sex life. And then we have these communications breakthroughs that lead to much better sex. And so, honestly, everything boils down to, my background is 40 years working in advertising. I spent 40 years working in the business of communication. I know, therefore, that everything great in life and business is born out of great communication. Sex is no different. Great sex is born out of great communication. Talk about it. And that solves so many things. And I think that to your point, in long marriages and relationships, you don't do that because life subsumes it. And when you have external prompts that enable you to communicate around that, you'll be amazed at, even years, 20 years into a marriage, you can have a total breakthrough. One woman wrote to us, she said, my husband and I just discovered Make Love Not Porn. Best $10 a month I ever spent on a subscription. She went, we've been married for 20 years. And sex had dwindled to once, maybe every 3 or 4 months. She said, we found your website. We had sex 8 times in the first month. All these lovely couples, all these videos. Blah, blah, blah. But what was interesting to me was she said, it's not just the sex. My husband and I now feel more connected and more in love than ever before. And she literally ended, thank you for saving my marriage. And so it's my point about, sex is important because it absolutely is how you connect spiritually, intimately. And honestly, I've had great sex that is a transcendental experience. And I want everybody to have that experience, and not everybody does.
I think I read somewhere about somebody that had contacted you, and it was a man, and they'd contacted you and said that they'd seen something on Make Love Not Porn where somebody had said, I love you.
Yes, yeah.
Can you tell me about that?
Sure. So that was actually a wonderful exchange I picked up on Twitter a while back. So 2 men had tweeted each other, because the first man had tweeted, as a joke, obviously, hey guys, got this really weird fetish. I've got this kink where I want to watch porn where people are honest, loving, loyal, decent, and really like each other. Hit me with the hottest links, please. And another man replied to him, and he said, there's this website called Make Love Not Porn where you can watch real couples fucking and making love. He said, I watched a video where the woman said to her man, I love you, while they're making love. He said, sincerely, I cried when I heard that. And Davina, we hear that all the time from men. They write to us and say, I just watched my first Make Love Not Porn video and afterwards I cried. And that is because I've said for years, I wish society understood the opposite of what it thinks is true. Women enjoy sex just as much as men, And men are just as romantic as women. Yet neither gender is allowed to openly celebrate either fact. We would all be so much better off if they were. And so what men see on Make Love Not Porn is something they will find nowhere else on the internet, which is a safe space where men can be and watch other men being open, emotional, and vulnerable around sex.
Yeah.
We are the opposite of Andrew Tate.
Yeah. I mean, I love the fact that it's two men having a bit of banter online, because I must say one of the things that's frustrated me so much about porn is the acting that women do. And you know it's acting because I have never, ever seen, well, I mean, I haven't seen in true life people making love, but I've never, ever seen a girl go cross-eyed from having sex. You know those ones where somebody's going... And I was like, nobody does that. That's acting. And if you're not in the moment, then that's not sex. That's a show. It's like not real. And that's what I find so weird about pornography, that it's a show, it's acting, and often it's not real. You would never see... This is the conversation that I tried to have with my children, is that what you're watching isn't what real life is like. Do not expect that in real life. I'm just saying, be aware, be careful of what you see. And you did describe it earlier, which was great, but you described it in terms of heterosexual sex, because I was suddenly a bit aware that we haven't really spoken about what is Make Love Not Porn. Could you just tell me widely, like what else does it show? So it's real couples.
No, it's not just couples.
Right.
So basically, I created Make Love Not Porn to celebrate the full glorious spectrum of human sexuality in the real world. You know, if porn is, as you've just said, the performative, Hollywood blockbuster movie, we are the badly needed documentary. So we are...
Great, that's such a good description.
Yeah, we're a unique window onto the way we all make love in the real world. And so we are fully diverse and inclusive. Our members and our Make Love Not Porn stars, as we call our contributors, are all ages, 18 to 80, all races, ethnicities. We're a global platform. We have traffic and members from over 200 countries and territories. Male, female, trans, non-binary, straight, LGBTQ, asexual, we show you, honestly, just all of the wonderful ways that all of us out there are masturbating. So we have a ton of solo, videos. We are not just for couples, and we have, many, again, male, female, trans, non-binary masturbation videos, which are wonderful. We're not just couples either. We have a ton of threesomes, and we absolutely have, BDSM kink videos. The difference being on Make Love Not Porn, you see the real world version.
Yes.
So you see the negotiation beforehand, the boundary setting. You see the coming out of it, the aftercare, the cuddling. And very importantly, you see things like, so we have a ton of role play videos. But only on Make Love Not Porn will you see a video where a couple have decided to do a role play, maybe it's, boss, secretary, office, whatever. And halfway through, one of them says to the other, you know what, this isn't really doing it for me. And the other one goes, yeah, you're right, it's all a bit men. They go, let's just fuck. And it's really important that people see that, because it shows this is all very low stakes.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fine to try something, go, oh, didn't like that.
Yeah.
Right, you don't have to power through. You can absolutely go, okay, well, fuck that shit, and they go, let's just fuck, And they do. They abandon the role play immediately. And so, yeah. But we show the accidents, the messiness, the pets wandering in, the snack breaks in the middle. Because that's how we all make love in the real world.
I feel like every household, I feel like there should be an app on our televisions with Make Love Not Porn on there.
They should.
That is so good.
Yeah.
Because when you were starting this business, I mean, obviously you've worked in advertising for so long. Was it a hard business to promote? Did people get it immediately? Was it, it wasn't off the ground yet. You're trying to raise money. It's an idea.
Yep. No, they most certainly did not. And no, let me correct myself, Davina, because I can tell you that everybody gets it immediately. In fact, all I have to do is when I meet someone, they go, what do you? I go, I'm the founder and CEO of Make Love Not Porn. And without even knowing what Make Love Not Porn is, they know exactly why it exists.
Yeah.
So everyone gets it. But it's been a battle every single day, basically because people are funny about sex. And one of the biggest obstacles for me is the social dynamic I call fear of what other people will think, which operates around sex unlike any other area. So everything is challenging, raising funding, using business services, etc. Still to this day, which, by the way, I'm working on solving, building my own infrastructure, payments, places to advertise, etc. But it is...
Are you?
Yeah.
That's so smart.
Every business obstacle I encounter is a huge disruptive opportunity in itself.
Yes.
The first payments app that processes payments for legal, ethical, transparent veterans like mine at mainstream rates cleans up. I plan to build that app, and actually investors are getting it, and I'm in that conversation right now.
You are brilliant. Can I also just say very quickly, because you initially came onto this podcast, it's called Begin Again. It's about beginning again at any stage of your life, and how do you do it? But not only did you start Make Love Not Porn, and you are also you are starting a sexual revolution where we should all be a lot more comfortable talking about sex. But you're starting another business.
Yep.
At whatever age, I can't remember. What is it?
I'm 65. Loud and proud.
65.
Loud and proud. Yep.
And doing something that's really great, that's going to help your platform help hundreds of thousands of people.
Yep.
I love that. Okay.
Thank you. No, but I love what you just said, Davina, about every household should have access to Make Love Not Porn. Because I have to tell you, so for the past few years, parents have been buying their teenage children subscriptions to Make Love Not Porn. They tell us, and I quote, "I want my kids to see what happy, healthy, loving sexual relationships actually look like." But in the past year, those messages have gotten more and more desperate. So Mother wrote to us a couple months ago and said, "I've just discovered my 13-year-old son is watching Pornhub. I would much rather he watched Make Love Not Porn. I know he's underage. Can we figure out a workaround?"
Oh, I see, of course, because you've got an age.
Now, very importantly, at Make Love Not Porn, we are more legal than legal.
Right.
We are for 18 and over. And also, by the way, we are 100% human curated. Our creators watch every video from beginning to end. We publish them.
Oh, wow.
No
Okay.
self-publishing or anything.
That's amazing.
I designed Make Love Porn through the female lens to be the safest place on the internet. But our policy is parental judgment absolutely trumps that.
Okay.
As a parent, you know what is right for your child.
Yes.
And so this mother has now gifted her son, 13-year-old son, a subscription, which we hope will help. I got a wonderful email from a social worker some time back. And she wrote and she said, "I work with families with developmental disabilities." And she said, "I'm working with a family where their teenage son was distressing everybody because he was accessing violent extreme porn on computers all around the house, leaving it open. I mean, everyone's sort of, horrified. And she said it turns out that he hated this as much as everyone else did. He did not have the language skills to search for and find porn that he would prefer. She said, I sat down with the family and we agreed that if he keeps the watching to his bedroom, he can have a subscription to Make Love Not Porn. So 3 months later, I'm sending you a screenshot of the email he's just sent me thanking me for your website. And she said, "Thank you for making safe sexual exploration wonderful for everybody." So yes, that's what needs to happen.
That's amazing. Because I'm always amazed by parents. I did a great documentary for Channel 4 when I was pregnant with Chester. So it would have been 19 years ago.
Right.
Because he's 18 now. And it was called Let's Talk Sex, and it was about our sex education in the UK.
Fantastic, right.
And we went to Holland with some kids from schools over here and took them to a sex ed lesson of 12-year-olds. And the kids that we were taking were 15. It was so good. We went to a 5-year-old's sex education lesson. It wasn't about sex. It was more about kind of giving somebody permission to be in your space. Who do you love? Your parents, your friends, your dog. What does love feel like? It was talking about emotion. And then they go up 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They just learn a little bit more incrementally each year. They layer it upon layer it. Here you have 1 hour. And that's it. It's never kind of instilled. And it's always done in a bit of an embarrassing way. And it's always taught by a sports teacher who you just, you've played hockey with yesterday and suddenly they're talking to you about putting a condom on. It's like, I can't handle that at all. But The interesting thing is any of those parents that are going, I don't want my child to have a sex education lesson, I can tell you they are watching porn.
No, exactly. And so, Davina, that is why I'm building the solution to this as well. Because we are currently raising funding for, and we've raised some with an equity crowdfunding campaign, so we are designing and building a product I had in the pipeline for 10 years because parents began begging me for it from day one, which is makelovenotporn.academy. This is the 0 to 18 and beyond sex education expansion of what we do. And importantly, Davina, I'm not reinventing the wheel. This is an aggregator hub for the best of the world's sex education content that's already out there. Because in all the time I've worked to Make Love Not Porn, I've built up a network of brilliant sex educators all around the world who face all the same problems I do. Their content gets blocked on Facebook, Instagram. Their accounts get suspended. They're banned from advertising. And so what we're doing is we are building at makelovenotporn.academy effectively Google for sex education. Because Google's original mission statement was organize the world's information to make it universally accessible and useful. We are organizing the world's sex education information to make it universally accessible and useful. So we're bringing all of this together, and we're going to aggregate and then make it searchable by age appropriateness.
Yes.
So if you're a parent freaking out going, oh my God, my 6-year-old asked this, what do I say?
Yes.
We will give you the tools and content to have that conversation. If you're a teacher or a school, there are a ton of brilliant companies out there who've put together amazing curricula. There's one, by the way, right here in the UK called Life Lessons that's only 4 years old, but they've built a curriculum around peer-to-peer education. So it starts with, they have a ton of videos of young people, talking to their peers about, dating, sex, relationships, etc. And the teacher plays that in the classroom. Then there's a whole discussion guide and a lesson plan coming off that.
Great.
And every school around the world should see this.
Yes.
And there are a ton of amazing initiatives that are specifically for, avoiding the gym teacher, 1 hour, scenario. Equally, you'll be able to search by cultural sensibility. So we're going to have Christian sex ed, Muslim sex ed, Jewish sex ed. But the really important thing about this, Davina, is right now, the people keeping sex ed out of schools and not talking to their children about it, they kind of don't know what would happen if they brought it in. They're just something really bad. In their heads, they have this abstract, Sodom and Gomorrah will ensue. So when I can build and launch the academy, and I can show you the best of the world's sex education content all in one place, you can see for yourself at a glance how brilliant, informative, educational, healthy, and non-threatening it is. Right. And important, as I said, you pick and choose. You search by age, culture, and by personal comfort level. Right. You can decide what's right for your family. You can take that. What's right for your school, your classroom. And when I can do that, I think that is how I can help get sex ed into schools. I'm building this outside the system to help get it into the system.
What's fascinating is that it's like one woman is, potentially going to make a difference to hundreds, millions of
fingers crossed, if I can get the support I need.
It's absolutely amazing. I mean, I think one of the things I was thinking about was around the sex ed thing and how interesting it was that the reason why I did this documentary, Let's Talk Sex, was because at the time, our teenage pregnancy rate was incredibly high, but we had no sex education on the curriculum at all. And we went to Holland, where it is literally ad infinitum, from 5, weekly, layering upon layering, reminding, and they still had youth clubs. So in the youth clubs, once a month, somebody would come down, they'd get the old cucumbers out with the condoms. I was 38. I'd forgotten that you have to pinch the top of the condom. I was like, they went, put this on. They went, no, you have to pinch the top. I was so embarrassed. I was like, I'm literally pregnant. Like, I look like, you obviously messed that bit up. And I thought, I was like, so what's the average age of, losing your virginity in Holland? And they were like 17. And it's the vast majority of the time, they are in a committed relationship when it happens, and the parents know, and it's, it's a very healthy. I was like, what? How does that happen? But it's because it's not weird or funny. It's just spoken about in a completely normal way. Everywhere you go, social club, school.
And do you know, Davina, the one good thing, and this is how things have changed since you shot that documentary 19 years ago, So 16 years ago, I was the first person to stand up on stage at TED and publicly identify that when we don't talk about sex, porn becomes sex education by default, not a good way. Today, you cannot move without falling on another headline going, oh my God, kids learning about sex and porn. Now, the one good thing about the widespread awareness of that is, so I had this amazing evening last month where a couple of mothers reached out to me in the US where I'm based from an organization called the National League of Young Men. Now, I had no idea this organization existed until they reached out to me. It's a nationwide nonprofit in the US with chapters all around America. And it's an organization for mothers and high school teenage boys, i.e. 14 to 18 is what that means in America, with the aim of bringing these young men up to be upstanding, fine leaders of the community as adults. Okay, love this idea, mothers and sons together. Great. And so these mothers reached out from the Greenwich, Connecticut chapter of National League of Young Men to ask me to come and talk to 50 high school teenage boys about Make Love Not Porn. So first of all, kudos to those mothers for going as part of the National League of Young Men's programming. We want to have this. So they, sent a car for me, brought me out to Greenwich, which is, some way outside New York, to the home of one of these mothers who had a large living area, screen I could, to put my presentation on, and 50, 14, 18-year-old boys, whom, and plus Zoom set up for a number who couldn't actually make it IRL, but remotely. And first of all, they fed them, very good move, pizza, sushi, stuffed them, always a good idea before a couple of hours, And then the mother said to the boys, right, we're all going into another room in the house. We know nothing. We hear nothing. We will know nothing about what you are, Cindy. Right. This is your opportunity. Make the most of it. So they closed the doors. They left us to it. And so I had a short presentation about why Make Love Not Porn, why I started it, everything we've learned since. And I did something I don't normally do, which is I began it by going through every screen of the original makelovenotporn.com website that I presented at TED, which was Porn World versus Real World. It was kind of a public service announcement back in the day. Porn World, women have no hair down there. Real World, some women like shaving or waxing, others don't. Some men like au naturel. It's entirely a matter of personal taste. It's not obligatory. But I did that because when I wrote those slides, I wanted to get to young people. I used the language of porn. I was extremely graphic. And I thought, this is going to, I want to show these young men that I'm going to go there. And they can go there too. Now, as you can imagine, as the presentation kicked off, gales of laughter every time I said the word fuck, lots of giggling and snorting and, but the message landed. And then I opened it up to Q&A. And of course, to begin with, deathly silence. Then one boy asked a question.
That's great, isn't it?
And then the floodgates opened.
Wow.
And honestly, Davina, it was adorable, okay? Because the questions were all about insecurity to do with sex. How do you do it right? Do girls really like really big cocks? Which is my chance to land the it's not what you got, it's what you do with it message.
Yes.
But the reason I'm sharing this is because, to your point, so it's at one point, one boy asked a question about condoms. And, I was talking about the fact that at Make Love Not Porn, we make carrying and using condoms a badge of good sexual values. We have a tag for videos that use condoms, which is condom hot. They're condom hot because condoms don't get away with great sex. They can be an integral part of great sex. And another boy said something like, but what about like Plan B and the pill? And bear in mind I'm based in America, and right now we have a complete shit show playing out in America. And so I just burst out with, have you seen the political climate in this country? Then I thought, no, you're teenage boys, of course you haven't. But that named me to go, this is your responsibility. We are in a situation where it's very likely there'll be a federal ban on abortion. It's likely there'll be a federal ban on contraception. Girls and women are having their power taken away from them as we speak. You carry condoms, you use condoms, always, always, always. So I was able to really land that message with this audience.
How were they about that?
They really took it on board. I mean, what was wonderful about this was that there were so many things they wanted to know, and I just talk about them completely frankly.
Yes.
And so the mothers reached out again and said, we now have a group of mothers who'd love to talk to you. And so a couple of weeks later, I did a Zoom call with their mothers.
This is great.
Yep. And which was great because then I could talk about how to talk to their sons about porn and sex. And I think, the message I really like our listeners to take away from this as well, Davina, is, the issue with a lot of current sex ed in schools, whatever, is it's all about the bad things that can happen. It's about condoms, whatever. It's so important to talk about pleasure. We all enjoy this.
Oh, my God.
When you talk to children, talk about the fact this is a wonderful thing. That's why it's great to make sure that your first experience is with somebody that you're going to really, enjoy it as much as you can with, etc. Talk about pleasure.
I always think that masturbating's so important to wank on about.
Yep.
But because it is something that you can do alone. Nobody needs to kind of know. Nobody's going to tell anybody about it because you're the only person there. It is safe. You can explore
free
yourself.
Yep.
It's free entertainment.
Yeah.
You're not going to get pregnant.
Yeah.
And you can... So talking about masturbating from a relatively early... we're always kind of going, don't do that, don't touch that.
Yep.
Or if kids are... There's a lot of shame around... obviously, you've got to be careful because they can't be masturbating in a public place, or there are boundaries, right? But at the same time, you can set a boundary without shaming someone around it.
Exactly, Davina. Because, and again, this is why with the Academy, I'm trying to get sex education as far upstream as possible. Because I have a friend who has a 5-year-old daughter, and her daughter began masturbating when she was 3 and having a high old time, and obviously loving it. And my friend has been terrific because what she has basically educated her daughter on is, yep, it's wonderful. This is great fun. And what we do is, this is private me time. And so we do it in our own space, in our own bedroom. We don't do it with other people around, but it's absolutely wonderful. And you can do it all you want in the privacy of your own room. And that's a really healthy way to address this. And you're absolutely right. That happens very early on. And parents who are lost for words, don't know what to do, can do the wrong thing that starts, as you say, embedding shame around that straight away. I'm happy to report also that I have over the years advised many of my girlfriends on the best first vibrator to give to their daughter. Because...
Can I ask you, which one have you been recommending?
Right. So actually, and again, like I said, got to find the one that's right for you.
Yeah.
But I am a very big fan, this is my personal favourite, of the Lilo GG2 vibrator. I have it in pink. And
why is that good?
Well, I like it because, and again, masturbation, it's so interesting because it's all about how you like to do it. And incidentally, this is why our solo videos on Make Love Not Porn are great, because, most people never get to see somebody else masturbate. We show you that in the real world, and you pick up tips and tricks from how other people are. One man said to us, I suddenly realised I could be having so much more fun masturbating when I watch other men on Make Love Not Porn. So in my case, I like clitoral stimulation. I don't need anything inside me, just pressure on my clit.
Right.
And the GG2 gets me from 0 to 60 in like seconds, obviously accompanied by whatever I'm fantasizing about at the same time. But it's a very powerful vibrator. And again, this is my experience, not other women's, but I am not a fan of, there are a number of vibrators that are about suction on the clit.
Yes.
Those do not work for me. I just can't get them to...
Well, I've heard... And I've used that.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like sometimes if you were to use it too often, you'd go a bit numb.
Right.
Actually, you don't ever want that. You want that it to stay very sensitive.
No, absolutely. And I'm sure the numbness is temporary, but by the way, not. But I just can't get that to work for me. So I like strong vibratory pressure on my clitoris, and the Lilo GG2 totally delivers.
Is that the general consensus that most women need to have their clitoris stimulated in order to reach orgasm? Because I don't know many women that have the inside.
Right. So actually, and again, I say this from 16 years of emails to Make Love Not Porn. No, not necessarily.
No.
So there are women, and I'm deeply envious of them, who can come from nipple stimulation alone. I mean,
Wow.
that is the thing, by the way, women and men. We actually have a video on Make Love Not Porn of a man who can get erect and ejaculate just by playing with his nipples.
Wow, amazing.
I mean, fascinating. And
good.
and women have written to me saying that's so that there are people who can come from stimulation on other erogenous zones alone. There are absolutely people who can come from G-spot stimulation. I've not managed to make that work myself again, but there are plenty of women who can. Again, we're all different. When we email our members at Make Love Porn with themed collections of videos, I mean, we have a ton of squirting videos, okay, which is real, is a thing. But equally, we are always very careful to say, some people can do this, others can't, and it doesn't mean anything either way. It's just we're all built differently, and we all enjoy different things.
Yeah.
We do not have a socially acceptable vocabulary for real-world sex. The language of porn has rushed in to fill that gap, and that is not a good thing for a number of reasons, not least of which is that, as you would expect in a male-dominated industry, the language of porn is predominantly male-generated. So the person who coined the term finger blasting didn't have a vagina. Because if you hear the term finger blasting, you want to cross your legs. At least I do.
Can I just ask you? I'm really sorry. I've never even heard of finger blasting. Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, and trust me,
Savage.
Savage. Yeah. The person who coined the term getting her ass railed never got his ass railed.
Yeah.
Pounding, banging, slamming, wrecking, destroying. All terms.
Wrecking and destroying are horrible.
Yep. No, and that's why when, I mean, I find it ironic that, my lovely young gentleman will message me going, can't wait to wreck you. And I'm going, that doesn't sound like the way you want it to land. But literally, that is what the kids are saying these days. Those are terms created by people who do not possess the soft internal tissue to which those things are being done. So at Make Love Not Porn, we are building a new language for real-world sex. We tag our videos with tags like juicy, succulent. Our tag for oral is downtown. Our tag for anal is deliberately derived from the recipient's experience of anal. We tag our anal sex videos, ow, 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 hey now. And we're doing that because we want our members to take this language and use it beyond our platform in the real world. Because this is language you can use to talk about sex without worrying about being overheard in the bar or the coffee shop. And it's language you can use to talk about what you want to do in bed in a celebratory, positive, and gender equal way. And we are using our tags to reframe how people think about things. So, as I said earlier, porn unfortunately makes men believe that sex is entirely dick-centric, how hard, how... in the real world, men are frequently not erect or semi-erect. And these days, if that happens, men think there's something wrong with them, which there absolutely isn't. So on Make Love Not Porn, we have a tag for those of our videos where the man is, not erect or semi-erect. That tag is derived from the world of ice cream. We call those videos soft serve because soft serves are yummy and delicious.
I mean, it's messed up for kids nowadays. I feel quite sorry for them and trying to navigate their way through it. And add to all of that is the shame. What country do you think is doing it right?
Nowhere. And I say that confidently, Davina, because we're a global platform. I speak all around the world. I can tell you, even in Scandinavia, where yes, they absolutely happen in school, but nevertheless, everyone's watching porn there too. And honestly, I mean, this is why I created Make Love Not Porn, real world sex videos, because it doesn't matter what the theory is through books and comic strips and videos and courses. Porn is where everyone goes to see it actually happening. Yeah. And, until we came along with the real world version, porn is the only place where you can see people actually having sex.
If you are a parent and you have a 13-year-old son like that lady was, should a parent, if it is going to be for her son, should she be transparent and say to you, I'd like to get this for my son. I am permitting him to. Is that okay? Can you?
They absolutely can. They don't have to, by the way, because what they can do is you can gift subscriptions
right.
from your account. So
okay.
they can do that if they don't want to engage with us. But we would love them to, because we like to keep tabs on how much this is happening, because it's a really good data point for all the things that need to happen around this.
Well, especially for the academy.
Exactly. And by the way, we welcome all feedback as well. We'd love people to tell us what they think, any improvements we can make, all of that too.
How do you get your porn?
Well, I, like any entrepreneur, built a platform for the product that I wanted to use that was missing in the marketplace. So I built Make Love Not Porn because I want to watch how the world makes love. I want to see, the real world sex we're all having. And by the way, to this day, at a weekly team meeting where our curators debrief us on the newest videos, we will go, wow, did not know that was a thing. As the other
And
thing,
so do people send it to you then?
People submit videos of themselves having sex in the real world. And they go through, as I said, a 100% human curated process because there's no self-publishing. We watch every video from beginning to end. We approve or reject, and we publish it.
So if a couple are listening to this and they think, I want to be on Make Love Not Porn, is there a place on the website?
If you just go and click on share, and then that's where you can submit your video. And a couple of things about that. I foresaw the creator economy 16 years ago, long before OnlyFans. I designed our revenue share model to democratize access to income. So basically, our members pay to subscribe, rent, and stream social sex videos. Half that revenue goes to the contributors, the Make Love Not Porn stars. But importantly, our Make Love Not Porn stars tell us that sharing their real-world sex on Make Love Not Porn is as transformative for them as sharing everything else on social media has been for the world at large. So the people who share their masturbation videos, and by the way, the vast majority had never filmed themselves doing anything sexual before, ever.
Wow.
They're doing it for us because they believe in our social mission. So our solo Make Love Not Porn stars say that sharing this very intimate act made them love themselves more. It enhanced their sexual sense of self, sexual self-esteem. Couples tell us it transformed their relationship. Because when you decide to film yourselves having sex, you have to talk about it. And when you talk about it, it doesn't matter how long you've been together, the conversation goes places it's never, ever gone before. People write and say, we thought we were open. Doing this just took our relationship to a whole new level. So it's as transformative for our contributors as for the people who benefit from this privileged glimpse into other people's real-world sex lives.
I can't help but feel it's kind of a really nice, kind of more loving version of OnlyFans. You know what I mean? Where it's something...
No, it is because the difference between us and OnlyFans is performative. People are performing for fans. And on Make Love Not Porn, you are simply sharing the sex you have anyway.
Yes.
And our members feel privileged to get that glimpse into actual real-world sex lives.
I think one of the really appealing things about you and the way that you talk about it is that it's very matter-of-fact. It's not like, oh, and ooh. You know what I mean? It is just sex. And sex is enjoyable, and we should all be enjoying it.
Absolutely.
And if we talk more and we're just honest and open about it, we all probably would.
Exactly.
And I have seen this a little bit in my own, I talk quite a lot about the menopause. And there is this great woman who has a shop that sells sex toys and lubes and things like that. And she is called Jo Divine, and she's called Sam Talk Sex on Instagram. And I met her through the menopause chat because when we did the documentary, we went to go and meet her to talk about vaginal atrophy, when you get dry in your vagina, and taking vaginal estrogen, which, by the way, for anybody that's watching or listening, is now known to be 100% safe. You can take it for your entire life.
Excellent.
It is only topical. If you don't want to take any kind of other HRT, if your dry vagina is bothering you, take vaginal estrogen. It's got no side effects apart from reopening your shop. And she's great to talk to. She's, like you, an educator, very keen. She talks a lot about lubes. And
oh my God.
Yeah.
Lube. I adore lube.
Yeah.
Everything goes better with lube.
Right.
There is no such thing as too much lube.
Never.
Lube.
All the way.
I have it on my nightstand within, a moment's reach. Yeah, absolutely.
But it's interesting how many women go, never used lube. And you think, who's not using lube?
Yeah, no. I got an email from a teenage girl, again, years ago, saying, I'm a bit dry and, I want to use lube, but my boyfriend thinks I should get really wet like all those girls in porn. And unfortunately, God. I think that's factored into, I should be able to naturally gush with, and actually, no, you shouldn't. And by the way, especially, with that teenage girl, if a boyfriend's not approaching this in the right kind of way, zero foreplay, etc. No, bring on the lube. And what I always say to women is, even if, again, if you're straight and the guy's thinking that way, the moment he feels the difference lube makes, he's going to be all about it. Worry not.
And she's very particular about talking about the type of lube that you get, because there are certain ingredients in lube that can aggravate a vagina, and there are ones that are good for it. So do be really careful if anybody's listening to make sure that you get the right one for you. But what was interesting was, of all my menopause chats that I do with all these different doctors around, hot flushes and perimenopause and the menopause and all of that, my sex talks, the ones where we talk about sex and how to reignite it, were always the most popular. And I think if we can just start talking about it in a non-sensationalist way, it's just normal. It's just a part of life.
No, exactly. We have to break down this prudishness and embarrassment and shame in society generally.
And it is interesting, I think, that there is a wave of keenness from everybody to try and start a revolution, a sexual revolution, for us to be able to come together.
Literally,
yeah. It's really interesting. I just want to ask you, what are your hopes for the future? What do you want? I mean, obviously the Academy.
So bear in mind, Davina, I'm going to answer that question in terms of the future that I see coming, on the one hand, because I live in New York, I'm based in the US, where our freedoms are being rolled back as we speak. Especially, reproductiverights.org, the government website, was taken down like the moment Donald Trump got into the White House. Things are very bad for women and girls in all of this area. But I'm going to say what I've been saying to everybody else, which is, it is only when things get as bad as they are currently, break down completely, that is what allows new forms and new models of resistance to emerge that never would have otherwise.
Yes.
So in my case, I want to scale Make Love Not Porn to be ultimately the Facebook of social sex. I mean, not necessarily because Facebook's not great either, but scale-wise, because our mission ultimately is to help end rape culture globally. Now, that may sound like a very big mission, but we have 12 years of proof of concept at a micro level.
Yeah.
We help end rape culture by doing something very simple that nevertheless nobody else is doing. We end rape culture by showing you how wonderful, great consensual, communicative sex is in the real world. We eroticize consent.
Yes.
Our real world sex videos role model good sexual values and good sexual behavior. And here's the key point. We make all of that aspirational versus what you see in porn and popular culture. One man left a comment saying, "This video makes me want to be a better man, in the bedroom and in life." We can do that. So I want to help end rape culture globally.
Well, I'm on board.
Excellent.
Yeah. There are so many things about you, Cindy, that I have learnt today that have made me love you even more.
Oh my God,
if that's
you.
even possible.
Thank you.
But I admire you so much because it's not easy talking. It's almost easier to talk as an extreme sexual minx, you know, the girl that's having sex with 1,000 guys.
God, yeah.
You know, she's being applauded. You know, it's harder, I think, doing what you're doing. But what you're doing is so important. And I just want to thank you for that. And thank you for being a voice and a shining light. And let's get the message out there and magnify and amplify you as much as possible. But I've loved talking to you today. Thank you for coming here.
Well, Davina, I'm very touched and moved to hear you say that. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to share what I'm doing with you and your audience. I'm very, very grateful for that.
Round of applause, everybody. Fuck me, you're amazing. Well, Cindy Gallop did not disappoint. I mean, I knew she was going to be good, but she was knockout. And I don't know about you, but I just feel like I want to amplify her message everywhere I go. She deserves, well, I'm not going to tell you what you have to do, but she deserves my support. I want to help her. She is brilliant, isn't she? And that academy and the idea that there could be a healthy way for our children to learn about intimacy and making the correct decisions. And with that knowledge and that power, they might wait and lead healthier sexual lives. Oh, wouldn't that be great? Wow, so much to think about.